Juno, a super talented producer from Germany, brings a unique approach to the Afro house sound by combining analog synths with hypnotic grooves and intricate percussion. His sound has a perfect balance between being accessible while having that really deep texture that keeps you hooked. He's released across labels like Magnifique and Club Records, and some of his most well-known tunes are Last Dance and Heat, that were some of the most supported Afro House tracks of the year. I'm Nick from the Producer School, and today I will teach you how to make this sound yourself. I'm breaking down all the elements that you need for a track in this style, such as the synths, the drums, FX and more. All the sounds I'm using in this video are from our pack Tantra, which is our new Afro House sample pack. So if you want to check that out, head over to the link in the description. And without further ado, let's now dive into the project. So first of all, we want to set the BPM to 120, as this is the BPM that most of his tracks are in. Then we start with a bass line, and I created a bass line that sounds like this. A loggy kind of deep sub-bass that leaves a lot of room for other synth elements and grooves to be layered on top of it. First of all, let me explain the sound in Serum. The sound is basically two sine waves, one pitch down 2 octaves and one pitch down 1 octave. And then there's PD modulation right here that gives that kind of modulated grid to the sound. Then on oscillator C, we have a tom sample, and that really helps to add some more transient to the sound. If I turn it off, that sounds like this. It's really subtle, the difference, but it works really well. Envelope 1 is shaped like this, the sustain drops pretty fast. The decay is relatively short, and then the sustain stops around the middle. Envelope 1 is linked to the modulation on oscillator A, which kind of adds some more movement to the sound and helps the transients to punch through a little bit more as well. Envelope 3 is a really short envelope that is linked to the coarse pitch right here, again, which is a really cool trick if you want more punch on your sine bass. Then I use an MG-Low 18 filter. It's also linked to the level of the tom, so that is just really short and there for the transients. Then here in the filter section, you can see I'm using an MG-Low 18 filter, which is turned down to like 500 Hz. And that really results into a subby sound that leaves a lot of space for other elements. If I would turn it off, again, really subtle, but effective in this case. Then there's a compressor, a little bit of dimension. As you can see here, this macro is linked to the mix here. That kind of just widens the sound a little bit. Delay is not turned on, as I really wanted it to be a clean sub response. And then here 2 equalizers with some slight boosts in the low and the mids. If you listen to the MIDI that I made here, it's really simple. And when I turn on the metronome, you can already notice that it kind of gets you into a certain groove. And since it's already quite heavily processed, I'm just adding a sidechain. Next, I'm layering a synth that really turns this into the Juno signature style. And it's a lead using a perfect fifth, and you will immediately notice that this is something he really likes to use. So as you can see, I basically created a rhythm on the bass line and then some slight variations right here. And together that sounds like this. And this sound is really interesting to show you, as it's using 3 wavetables. First of all, the polysaw wavetable pitched down 2 octaves, then a default saw wave pitched up 1 octave, and then this model D saw wave, which is pitched up 7 octaves, which gives the perfect fifth. And I added some voices of unison right here to make the fifth more wide and more in your face. Then there's this Geiger noise, which makes it really crisp and dirty. And in the macro here, I'm modulating the level of oscillator C. So you can also turn it off, but then you don't have the fifth. As you can hear, it immediately makes it slightly more wide. Then this envelope shaped pretty shortly like this and linked to the cutoff. And right now we play a really short rhythm. Also there's this sub layer, which is just an additional saw, like layering all the saws together in order to get a really full, almost analog-y sounding sound. Since this is the same wavetable as oscillator B, make sure they are not on the same octave, or you slightly change the sound, because otherwise there will be phase problems. Then here in the portamento section, it's turned to always, which creates that kind of glidey effect in the melody right here. Then, as you can see, there is an equalizer in the Vic section, which ducks the low mids and boosts some of the higher mids to create that really crisp sound. And then there's this new function in Serum 2 where you can split a sound in different bands, which is the low band, the mid band, and the high band. And since this is a really mid-focused lead, I added a tube distortion here on the mids. It just adds that little extra drive that you want. Then a compressor, once again, quite a similar EQ shape as the first one. And then a filter, which we are not using at the moment. But right now, I feel like the sound is a little bit bland. So let me take you through some steps in the post-processing that can really level up this sound. First of all, an EQ to get rid of any of the low end that's still coming through. And then there's this plugin called Little Radiator, which is really my go-to plugin if you slightly want to make a sound a little bit more fat. It's really intuitive. You can simply just turn up the heat a little bit. And it just adds that crunch to the sound that works really well. As you can see, I'm a fan of sound toys. So next is some decapitator with the drive set to 2 to add even more saturation to the sound. And then there's this really interesting plugin called CQ, which is an analog equalizer that allows you to add certain frequencies, which has a really distinctive analog sound. So I use that to boost the high frequencies a little bit. And that just makes it punch through the mix a little bit more. And since the sound was now really dry, I'm adding a delay and a really short room reverb. And then it sounds like this. And together with the bass, you can now further understand that the bass line is so minimalistic to give room to elements like this. Next, I'm adding a bass step that kind of follows the same notes as the top lead we made, and then here in the end has a little variation. Sounds like this. Sound itself is again a saw based preset from Tantra, and it uses 2 Model D saw waves, 1 pitch down 2 octaves and 1 pitch down 1 octave, and then you kind of already get this really fat sound. And then a velocity is linked to a Moog filter, so depending on how hard you let the velocity hit, the filter opens up more. And then really the key section of this sound is the amount of release that we gave it. Because if I turn it down, but we really want this release to kind of fill up all the empty spaces. Then there is a multiband compressor to make it slightly more crisp, a tape saturation, and a utility that slightly decreases the width since we want it to sound a little bit more mono. And that also makes it sound a little bit more vintage. And then a chorus after that. For the mixing, a super straightforward EQ, some OTT set to 30%, and then some reverb that kind of extends the tail a little bit. It's really important for a sound like this to really get rid of the lows. Otherwise, we have too many elements that are going to clash with each other. This now sounds really crispy in the high end, which is exactly what we needed on top of the other synths. Forgot to tell you that the Geiger noise is here again to just add that little noisy texture on top. Then we can start building the foundation of the groove, which in general I start in the style with a tom. So I took this tom from the pack. It's really simple. If you play it soloed like this, it's nothing special, but together with the other elements, without even having a kick or anything, you already hear that this is just a key to get more groove into your track. Now I'm going to move on to the drums, which is also a really interesting part. So here are the main drums that together sound like this. And I will just deconstruct them all. So first of all, we have this kick loop from the pack, which already has this filtered offbeat kicks that really helps to add more syncopation to your groove. A really subtle soft kick, but with some body in the high end. And what's really interesting about this style is that he often uses percussion, cowbells or claps on his kick. So to demonstrate that, I added this cowbell layered with a head. It's basically just two samples layered together in a pattern. I added some decapitator and a little bit of delay, as well as a short room reverb again. And then what makes this sound really polished is the shaper box on the bus, which is an envelope follower that adds white noise on top of it, which you can also automate really well later on, such as the release here, to create these kind of sweeping white noise effects. Next is a shaker and a head. And on the shaker and the head, I added again a CQ to really boost that crispy high end. And the rest is texture and organic percussion loops that are all also from the sample pack. And these really make it more organic and just more natural. Then a little percussion right here. And as you can hear, it has a really short delay that kind of gives it that metallic effect. A conga loop. And then layered with the cowbell that sounds like this. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see a tutorial on how to make these organic percussion loops yourself, as I can really spend a lot of time explaining on how to do this, which this video simply is too short for. Then layering the drums together with the synths gives you this. Let me now take you to the final arrangement and show you some little tricks that you can use in your own arrangement. So in arrangement, you can see that it's essentially the same elements playing already from the start. However, the bass step is not introduced yet and the main lead is really filtered. So this really gives you more the groove to start off the track. And what's interesting to show you is the ambience and FX, together with an ambience loop, some noise ambience, and a tonal atmosphere that really adds more harmonics to the overall sound. Then this transition is interesting. I'm using a Foley kind of transition with an impact. And I created this also kind of impact thing with a tom sample and some delay and reverb. It's literally ping pong reverb and then some really tiny bit of vintage verb. Then this is really interesting to show you. It's a cutoff automation for the fifth lead and it slowly opens up and you kind of build towards the main drop. And then here is the automation I talked about, which is the shaper box automation, and that's added to the main lead as well. So normally it's set to 0% mix, but then in the build-up it opens up, which kind of gives you a really natural and controlled sweep. So let me show you how that sounds. Together with a smile. And then in the drop it slightly goes down again. For the build-up, just make the elements more minimal. I'm introducing the bass step here, but filtered. And then I found this vocal which he also used, so I decided to put it in. And a little sweep with a fill. And that's it for this sound, so I will now play you how it sounds all together. If you want to check out the project yourself, it's free to download for all of you, and you can check it out in the link in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it, as I really appreciate his style a lot. So it was really fun to kind of try it myself. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, just make sure to drop a comment down below. As I said in the beginning of the video, all of the sounds are from our pack Tantra, which is also linked in the description. For now, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I see you guys in the next video.